In October of 2017, a mysterious object roared into our solar system at a speed of 196,000 miles per hour, and it was huge, around half a mile long. For reference, that's over 7 football fields or 58 school buses or nearly 2 Empire State Buildings laying on their side. So what was it? And where did it come from? And most importantly, who sent it? You're listening to Aliens Should Wear Pants, the all-ages podcast about aliens, unidentified anomalous phenomena, and outer space, where we take an open-minded but critical look at all things extraterrestrial. I'm Jesse Barbin, and I'll be your host.
I would guess that there are infinite galaxies in our universe and infinite solar systems in our galaxy.
I guess that there may be 365 galaxies in our universe and 60,000 trillion solar systems in our galaxy.
I would guess that there are 6 galaxies in our universe and 3 solar systems in our galaxy. I think that is it.
Depending on who you talk to, our universe is made up of 1 trillion galaxies. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is made up of 200 billion stars. 3,200 of those stars are planetary systems, meaning they are made up of a star with planets orbiting around it. And our solar system is just one of those planetary systems. Our galactic neighborhood is so huge, and yet, we still have not met any of our neighbors. And do we even have neighbors? Which is a more scary thought? That there are beings in our galaxy that we are just waiting to discover, or that we are all alone amongst all these billions and trillions of stars. One day, in 2017, we did get a visitor from another part of the galaxy, and its name was Oumuamua.
I think it's pronounced Oumuamua?
Oumuamua?
Oh, mama.
Oumuamua.
Oumuamua?
Oumuamua?
Ooh, mama.
Oumuamua? Oumuamua.
Oumuamua?
When Oumuamua first appeared in our solar system, no one could tell what it was at first, and it didn't have a name. Scientists could tell that the object had come from outside of our solar system based on the direction and speed it was traveling. As you know, our solar system is made up of the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and formerly Pluto. And out past Neptune and poor Pluto are billions and billions of other solar systems besides our own. And we have never had any visitors come into our neck of the galactic woods until now. The first people to notice the object were at an observatory in Hawaii. On October 19, 2017, the Pan-STARRS-1 telescope at the University of Hawaii picked up this mysterious visitor and raised the alarm. I say alarm, but the scientists were actually overjoyed to get this once-in-a-lifetime chance to study something from outside of our solar system. This observatory was part of the National Aeronautics and Space Institute's Near-Earth Object Observations Project. It was set up to find and track asteroids and comets that are near Earth.
I would name it ginormous because that's probably what it is.
I would call it like a flying disc. If it wasn't shaped like a disc, I would probably call it like maybe the alien mothership.
I would name it the Intruso, and because that Intruso means intruder in Spanish.
Now, they couldn't keep calling this spooky visitor the object. It was too big and too important, so they had to give it a name. And since it was first spotted in Hawaii, it was eventually given a Hawaiian name, Oumuamua, which is a Hawaiian word meaning a messenger arriving from afar. But what was this messenger saying? And where did this messenger come from? Once the first telescope caught a glimpse of Oumuamua, other scientists and telescopes around the world started following the mysterious object across the solar system with their own telescopes. They needed to collect as much information on it as they could before it sped out of our solar system. This was something that had never happened before, and no one knew when it would ever happen again. At first they thought Oumuamua was a comet. Comets are balls of rock, dust, ice, and frozen gases that fly through the solar system. As they pass near a star, they start to warm up and release their frozen gases, which give the comets their distinctive tails. But Oumuamua did not have a tail, and as scientists looked closer, they saw that it was because it contains no ice. So, not a comet. They also thought Oumuamua could be an asteroid. Asteroids are large chunks of rock that are similar to comets, only they don't have tails. But Oumuamua was accelerating slightly, which told scientists it was not an asteroid. Another interesting thing about Oumuamua is that it is red. This is possibly because a rocky object that has traveled through space will have been baked in the radiation of space for thousands and thousands of years, which would theoretically turn it red. And one of the most spooky things about Oumuamua was that it was accelerating on its own. In contrast, most other things in space are floating or being pushed around by gravity from some other body, but it appeared that Oumuamua was speeding up by itself. It also didn't move smoothly, rather it wobbled like a top as it whooshed through our solar system. Why it wobbles is another spooky thing about Oumuamua, and it wobbles because it has a strange shape. Like we mentioned at the beginning, it is very long, and is also very skinny, and you could say it's shaped like a giant space cucumber. This is an unusual shape for an asteroid in our solar system, since they are usually shaped more like space potatoes, if you will forgive me another vegetable comparison. Most objects traveling through space generally assume a rounded shape, like rocks in a river or lake becoming smooth due to rushing water. Scientists didn't know how something shaped like Oumuamua could occur naturally in our universe. This shape is part of what makes people question whether it is actually a piece of space rock, or instead, is it a starship flying through space? For an object to be as long and skinny as Oumuamua to rotate so rapidly and not fly apart tells us that it must be made of rock, or something stronger, like space metal. So to recap, Oumuamua had a strange shape, was speeding up on its own, and was not a comet or asteroid. So we've eliminated a lot of things that it isn't, but what actually is Oumuamua? The answer is, unfortunately, not as exciting as one might hope. 2 years after Oumuamua blasted past us, most scientists had come to the conclusion it was a natural object, meaning it was probably not built by anyone or anything. This was determined by some clever scientific research by a lot of clever scientists. The process for deciding Oumuamua was probably not alien origin went like this. First off, the SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, used one of its telescopes to look Oumuamua over. They determined that there were no radio transmissions coming from it. They also listened to it with certain specialized telescopes like the Green Bank telescope and did not hear anything. It was close enough to Earth that the scientists were confident that they would be able to detect even the faintest signal, and they didn't hear anything. Also, we said that the telescopes listen, and just to clarify, some telescopes get like visual information, and these telescopes were gathering information from other spectrums. Secondly, they also looked, so just so you know, it wasn't a mistake, that some telescopes work that way. Secondly, they also looked at how Oumuamua flies. While Oumuamua doesn't move like an asteroid, it also doesn't move like an alien spacecraft. Its movement has been easy to predict as it moved through the solar system, never really changing rate of acceleration or trajectory. We would expect an alien ship, however, to change course from time to time, or to speed up or slow down. And Oumuamua never did any of that. At the end of it all, most scientists agree that it is space debris. Or just junk, just a hunk of space junk. But that's probably not giving Oumuamua enough credit. Some scientists think it's possible it could have come out of some cosmic explosion, such as the creation of a star, which is why it is speeding along so quickly, because it was blasted out of the heart of some newborn star. And that's pretty cool. For all we know about Oumuamua, there is still so much that we don't know. For a start, we don't know exactly where it comes from. The closest we can guess is that it came from the general area of the star Vega in the constellation Lyra, roughly 25 million light years away. This means it took Oumuamua 600,000 years to reach us, and it is still going. As we look back on our time with Oumuamua, it was painfully short. As of 2018, our telescopes can no longer see it, and in 2019 it passed Saturn on its way out of our solar system, and it was headed towards the constellation Pegasus. Weirdly, In 1973, a famous science fiction author, Arthur C. Clarke, wrote a book called Rendezvous with Rama. In it, scientists have found a strange object floating out past the planet Jupiter. Sort of sounds familiar, right? They name it Rama after a Hindu god, and they take their own spaceships and fly out to inspect it. Once they're there, they find out it is an alien spaceship from another solar system, and it's shaped like a perfect cylinder. They also find out that it is crewed only by robots, and then it just flies out of the solar system. So, kind of anticlimactic as a book, but eerily similar in shape to Oumuamua. In fact, before Oumuamua was called Oumuamua, scientists were thinking of naming it Rama. Even though it is most likely that Oumuamua is basically a weird-shaped space rock zooming through space, I still like to imagine what it would be like if it was an alien spaceship flying past. What do they think about our solar system? What do they think of us here on Earth as we watch them fly by? In 600,000 years, what else have they seen, and how do we compare? And now, dear listeners, we must wave a sad goodbye to our extrasolar friend, Oumuamua. Safe travels, good buddy. We barely knew you. As we reach the end of this episode, the lesson we learn is we are weirdly isolated out here in what we call the solar system. It would be nice if someone came by and welcomed us to the neighborhood. Maybe they're on their way.
A good way for aliens to introduce themselves to us on Earth would be Morse code, so we could translate it and there'd be no issues with accent or languages.
A good way for aliens to introduce themselves on Earth would be, hello, my name is so-and-so. What's yours? We're not mean, we're not gonna, vaporize you. We're just gonna be, hanging out, for, a week or so. Hope you don't mind.
You've been listening to Aliens Should Wear Pants. We're also counting down to the Roswell UFO Festival, which takes place in the aforementioned Roswell, New Mexico in 7 weeks now on the 4th of July weekend, July 4th through 6th, 2025. The festival is basically a celebration of the city of Roswell, UFO culture, curiosity, and critical thinking. If you're listening to this and you're an alien or an extraterrestrial and want to give your side of the story, please reach out to me by sending me an email at aswppodcast@gmail.com or DM me on Instagram at aswppodcast or beam a message directly into my brain. If you need directions to Earth, it's easy. Once you get to the Milky Way galaxy, you'll see the constellation Sagittarius in the center, and then you'll want to keep going about 30,000 light years until you see Earth. If you hit Canis Major, you've gone too far. We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Aliens Should Wear Pants. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and tell your friends. If you know any extraterrestrials, please tell them too. Thank you to Linus, Davey, Violetta, and Nico for their contributions. We will talk to you next week. And as they pass near a star, they start to warm up and release their frozen gases, which gave